So the official 2025 North Carolina Tar Heels football schedule has come out. And while I initially thought, based purely on brand name, that this was going to be an extremely favorable schedule in Belichick's first year, I've kind of changed my mind. Huddle up.
You don't want none! You don't want none!
What's going on, Tar Heel Nation? It is your favorite North Carolinian, Russ the Tar Heel, and I'm sure by now that you've all seen the recently released UNC football schedule, and I know that many of you, including myself, have already combed through this thing to see how many wins and losses we can see on this schedule, man. Can Bill Belichick get us to 10 wins? Can we actually go to the ACC championship game? Is a playoff berth in year one actually possible? And we're going to delve into some of those things in this one, but obviously it is way too early for me to give you an official season prediction, right? Coach Belichick is still getting players to commit, it seems like, daily, and I'd at least like to go through spring ball because we really don't know exactly what we've got on the coaching staff side of things or the player personnel. Now, despite that, these are obviously extremely interesting things to talk about as a fan base. So I want you guys to definitely be chopping it up in the comment section what you think about this schedule. So without further ado, man, let's pull the schedule up and I'm going to talk about some things that stand out to me. And we'll go through it one by one. Not going to spend a whole bunch of time on some of these games, but I do want to talk about, some things that kind of pique my interest, man. And of course, the recent news that Carolina will open the season against Texas Christian in Chapel Hill on Labor Day, September 1st, Monday Night Football, bro, in prime time is oh so fitting of a way to start the Bill Belichick era, man. Dude, Keenan is going to be absolutely stinking electric. I'm seriously anticipating, a 2019 Miami-like atmosphere in that one. And, TCU is a very formidable opponent, dude. They're only 3 years removed from a national title appearance. And, head coach Sonny Dykes, who was the coach of that team back in 2022, that program has averaged 9 wins per season in the 3 years that he's been there. They also returned quarterback Josh Hoover, who last year almost threw for 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns to only 11 interceptions. So they have a good quarterback, right? And that's a huge question mark for Carolina going into the season for the Heels. We all know how good a good quarterback means to a program. So that's going to be a very interesting, tough matchup to start things off. Now, after that, Carolina then goes to Charlotte to take on the 49ers, which is going to be a tough game as well. Remember, due to that TCU game getting pushed to the right, Monday Night Football, that means that the Heels will only have 4 days to prepare for the Niners, and that could be an extremely interesting variable in and of itself, man. You would think, it's Charlotte, right? Okay? That's actually where Connor Harrell just transferred to as well. But, we should be able to get that done. But then you take into the account the other stuff. Emotional first week, TCU at home, who knows what happens with that game. And then you got a short week against, a smaller in-state program that would love nothing more than to beat the top dog, man. Only 4 days of prep time. That's interesting. That's all I'm saying, man. Then Carolina gets Richmond at home. Not going to spend too much time on that one, okay? That should be, a chalked up W. And then that's going to be followed by a trip to Orlando, Florida to take on the 2017 national champion, bullcrap, UCF Black Knights, who are now led by head coach Scott Frost after the recent departure of Gus Malzahn, who took the offensive coordinator position at Florida State under Mike Norvell. Now, UCF does have some questions at the quarterback position with the return of freshman Dylan Rizk, who went 1-4 as a starter last year. He threw for 904 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. So the question is he their guy? I don't know. Plus, adjusting to a new coaching staff will also make this an interesting game, in that both Carolina and UCF are in very similar positions. And that right there is your non-conference slate. It's right there, Tar Heels. And to be completely honest with you, I can slightly see a scenario in which the stars align, right? And the Lord rains down blessings and sunshine upon North Carolina with an unblemished 4-0 record. But I can also see fire and brimstone and a doomsday scenario in which the Heels stumble into their bye week at 1-3, man. It's going to be a very fun but difficult non-con slate for sure, man. I definitely want to know what the Tar Heel Nation thinks about this non-con slate down in that comment section. So individually, man, let me know what you think about that, what you're anticipating from those 4 games, etc., etc. Now, we're going to jump into ACC competition, right? So Carolina gets a bye week, okay, which is a pretty opportune time for Carolina to get their bye week, because looming is a home date with the 2024 ACC champion Clemson Tigers in their ACC opener. Now, here's the thing. Clemson also has a bye week that week. So it's going to be Dabo Swinney, the best in the Atlantic Coast Conference over the last 10 to 15 years, against Bill Belichick, the greatest of all time, with 2 weeks to scheme one another up, bro. That's pretty stinking exciting right there, if you ask me. Now, for Clemson, Cade Klubnik returns. Praise the Lord, Phil Moffitt is gone. But you already know that this program is still one of the best in the country, and that roster is rock solid, right? The Fighting Dabos are really deep at every position, and this is obviously going to be an uphill battle for the Fighting Bill Belichick's in year 1. I'm not saying that we won't, get there eventually, but realistically, I think we should feel really good about ourselves if we put up a decent fight, right? Clemson has established a decade of what Carolina is trying to reach, man. So, I don't want to diminish anything, but I think that we should kind of take all things into consideration and be really excited if we can make that a close game with a really good atmosphere, man. Still really excited about that game. And as they always say, any given Saturday, baby. Now, after that, this new ACC, right, the American Coast Conference, finally catches up to the Gridiron Heels, as Carolina has to travel out to Berkeley to take on the Cal Bears. Bro, that is stinking tough, man. Physical game against the Tigers, followed by a West Coast trip, and the game is on a Thursday or Friday, bro. Short week before a West Coast trip after playing Clemson. Goodness gracious, man. Who in the world did we piss off that does the scheduling, man? That's about as bad as it gets right there, dude. Now, fortunately, Fernando Mendoza was a fairly high sought-after quarterback in the transfer portal that transferred out to Indiana, so Carolina no longer has to worry about that dude. But the question is how does Justin Wilcox replace that guy, man? Very interesting football game right here. But I honestly hate the idea of having to travel out west, dude, especially given the circumstances. And personally, I cannot stand weekday games, especially in the middle of the season. Just don't like them, boys. Just don't stinking like them. Now, after that, Carolina plays Virginia at home in the South Soldiers rivalry. I personally feel pretty good about this game. Tony Elliott has struggled to really get things moving up in Virginia. Anthony Calandria is no longer there, so they brought in Chandler Morris to play quarterback from North Texas. But not too worried about that game. Interesting game the following week when Carolina travels up north to take on the Qs. Now, Kyle McCord is no longer at Syracuse because he declared for the NFL draft, but Head coach Fran Brown in year one had the Syracuse Orange at 10-3, bro. That's impressive. That is impressive, man. And they may have simply re-upped, though, as they got LSU transfer quarterback Ricky Collins Jr., who shared a quarterback room with Jaden Daniels, who won the Heisman Trophy, and LSU starting quarterback last year, Garrett Nussmeier. Now, the kid is a dual threat guy who's only thrown 7 college passes, but he may just end up being a stud, man. This is going to be another interesting football game to see, how that Syracuse program moves on. Is it just a one and done kind of thing, or are they starting to establish themselves a little bit in year 2 of Fran Brown? Very interesting game, man. Then Carolina gets Stanford at the house the very next week, which, I personally feel comfortable about that. They got to travel all the way over from the West Coast. Not that Stanford is just a pushover per se, but they were not very good last year. Can't imagine that, things are going to be exponentially different this year. So we're not going to spend too much time on that game. And here is arguably the craziest part of this schedule, man. And it's one of the first things that I absolutely just completely shocked me when I really just scanned over it real quick. At Wake Forest, Puke at the house, and at LOL State University to finish the season. Bro, that's crazy. 3 rivalry games in a row to end the regular season, man. I'm seriously interested in what Tar Heel Nation thinks about this one, dude. Do you like it? I mean, at least Carolina is staying inside North Carolina for their last 4 games because they do play Stanford at home before that 3-game stretch against the rest of the Big Four, if you will. So it's a plus not having to travel long distances at the end of the season. Obviously, you're already tired, you're worn down, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't know, man. You guys let me know what you think down in the comment section about that. Now, Dave Clawson recently stepped down as the head coach, which was arguably the most successful in program history. And in steps Jake Dickert, who spent the last 4 seasons at Washington State going 23-20 for the Cougs. Now, Wake Forest is surely going to go through a transition phase, so I'm not too particularly worried about this game, especially considering we're in the latter stages of the season and the year 1 stuff that's, maybe could surface in year 1 of Bill Belichick should be pretty much ironed out by this point. So not really focused too much on that game. Then we go into the battle for the victory bell, right? As Carolina tries to get some get back against Manny Diaz and the Blue Devils. Now, Carolina obviously squandered a 20-point halftime lead against Puke to lose the bell. So this game right here for Carolina is a must-win for sure. Out is Malik Murphy. In is Darian Mensah from Tulane at the low price of $8 million, $4 million a year. Goodness stinking gracious, bro. Unofficially, the highest paid player in the history of college football. And I think that crap is hilarious, bro. I mean, to be honest with you, I feel pretty good about this game at the house for sure. Carolina's not going to lose this thing 2 years in a row, especially not with Bill Belichick at the helm. And then we end the regular season on November 29th against the hated Wolf Sack of Raleigh. Now, CJ Bailey does return, who I think is average at best, to be completely honest with you. He had really good numbers against Carolina last year, but I think that was more merely poor Tar Heel defense than CJ Bailey actually being good. Steve Belichick will be a huge difference maker as the defensive coordinator in this one. So CJ Bailey can eat his comments about Bill Belichick getting some as well. Now, I'm sure they'll have something dialed up for him. Casey Concepcion is also gone, and the Wolfsack defense was down last year. Can we finally rebalance these scales, man? Can we finally retake the throne from the hated guys from West Raleigh? That is the stinking question, man. Now, a couple of other things that I want to point out about this football season is that you notice that Carolina has no back-to-back home or away games. So they're literally traveling every other week. That's kind of interesting, right? Home away, home away, home away, etc. They've got 6 legitimate home games this year and 6 legitimate away games this year. No neutral sites, which I personally stink and love because I don't like playing at neutral sites. I love home field and even playing the spoiler on the road, dude. It makes college football stinking great. So those are a couple of the things that I've also noticed about this schedule. And for those 6 home games, we need to have Carolina rocking, and that includes Richmond, okay? That place needs to be sold out. We need to be loud and proud, and we need to show Bill Belichick and the rest of the country that we are serious about our college football, man. Now, I personally love opening the season with a Monday night game in prime time at home because it should obviously be a great environment, but following that up with a short week at a team's place that considers you their Super Bowl, that is a little worrisome to me. So this is what I want you to do, okay? I want you to take a second to think about legitimately what the floor is for this UNC football team, right? Given the opponents in 2025, like, I want you to ask yourself, we should win how many games? No doubt. I'm talking about the games, no stinking doubt. And I'm going to say that a realistic floor, okay, which is not to be confused with my season prediction, is 6-6, all right? That's where I'm leaning right now as a floor for this team. I think Richmond, Virginia, Stanford, Wake Forest, Puke. I think that that's 5 easy ones, and I can daggone see Carolina getting, 1 or more of these toss-up games, if you will, like an NC State, like a Cal, that's kind of a toss-up a little bit. I would say that the floor right now is 6-6, and that's obviously as of early January, bro. I mean, we don't know what's going down at UCF, right? Clemson at home, and then, like I said, at Cal, Syracuse coming off of a 10-win season, and then the games at LOL State's always a toss-up. So, I can see us getting a couple of them, 1, 2, 3. That's why I have our floor at 6-6. So no worse than 6-6. If we don't go to a bowl game, then I think Tar Heel Nation should be pretty daggone pissed off, even in year 1. Now, let me go ahead and get this disclaimer out of the way, okay? I want Carolina to win every single game. And I have picked North Carolina in the last 2 seasons since the duration of this channel, okay? I picked them to go 22-2, right? 11-1 in both seasons, okay? So that's because I put just way too much confidence in Daddy Mac. Now, Carolina's actual regular season win-loss record in that span, 14-11, okay? So I've been there, I've done that. I'm trying to be as realistic as possible here. Now, what do I think Carolina's ceiling is in year 1 of Belichick? Well, I want you to take these variables into consideration before I give you my number here in January. And obviously, this is subject to change, okay? Take these variables into consideration. Number 1, you've got the greatest professional coach in the history of football at the helm. You say, dang, Russ, that's starting off with a bang. Okay, well, stay tuned. Key number 2, right now, it's looking like a sophomore Purdue backup or a freshman 4-star with no college experience will be your QB1. Just take that with a grain of salt. Number 3, running back room is pretty daggum light. Can Bullitt, be 3/4 of what Omarion Hampton is? Can we find a legitimate number 2 RB2, Number 4, revamped offensive line that could take some time to develop chemistry. Number 5, not one returning starter on the defensive line. You say, Russ, they weren't good anyway. Regardless, not one returning starter on the defensive line. Number 6, who lines up next to Amari Campbell in Steve Belichick's 4-2-5 defense? Okay? Who's going to be that other backer, man, that's going to be able to hold the line at the second level? I think that's a legitimate question now that Power is gone. Number 7, lots of new faces in the secondary. Lots of talent back there, but once again, chemistry. All right. Do they establish good chemistry? Number 8, we got a brand new field goal kicker. It's going to be, handling those duties. Who's going to replace Noah Burnett, who was fairly, accurate for the majority of his time as a Tar Heel? Number 9, right? We still don't have a bona fide punter that you feel good about, at least right now. And number 10, plain and simple, bro, it's a brand new coaching staff, man. That is 10 question marks going into this season, okay? And it's not to be negative either, Tar Heel Nation. It's really not. I just think that it's important to understand, let's be realistic based off of, some issues that may arise, some issues that may take some time. Because remember, we're trying to change the culture. And as great as Bill Belichick is, who's to say that that's going to be able to be done in year 1? I don't know, man. So my realistic ceiling right now in January, subject to change, put an asterisk by this, is 9 wins, okay? Who actually knows what's going to happen with TCU, right? The defending ACC champs, Clemson, with years of a stacked roster and Carolina under new management, maybe at Cal, right? Talking about games that are hookups, games that, we possibly can't win. Let's just say that we completely win all of our toss-up games and the games that we should win, right? And that's if the stars completely aligned in year 1. Completely. That's what I'm saying, okay? Now, what should Tar Heel Nation feel good about, though? Well, I think personally in year 1 that we should feel good about anything more than 6 wins, right? 6 wins, go 6-6, go to a bowl game. You get more than 6 wins, that's progress, okay? Especially in year 1, man. And I think we should feel ecstatic if we go 8-4 or 9-3, dude. And you better stinking pinch yourself with anything more than that. But I genuinely feel like regardless of which of those transpires, the rest of the conference and the nation, they should know that we're coming as long as Bill is at the top. Now, all this can change. Can't stress that enough, man. And it very well may, completely change at the end of spring ball. We've got a lot to look at between the coaching personnel, recruits, transfers, and just how Bill Belichick operates at the college level, man. So a lot of interesting things to really look at over the next couple of months, man. So you guys let me know what you're thinking about this season down in the comments section. Tar Heel Nation, what is the floor and what is the ceiling? What record should Carolina fans, start a riot over? And what should make them feel good about the future of this program? If you haven't already, man, do me a solid, bro. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel, man. Let's chop it up in the comment section. And you already know it's a great day to be a Tar Heel. We will catch you on the next one, baby.